Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell stood on the deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln, watching the endless stretch of blue water that surrounded the massive aircraft carrier. The Pacific Ocean looked calm that morning, but Sarah knew better than to trust appearances. She had been serving on carriers for 5 years, and the ocean always held secrets beneath its surface. Sarah was one of the few female naval officers aboard the carrier, specializing in underwater communications and submarine detection. Her job required her to monitor sonar readings and coordinate with submarine fleets that operated in the same waters. It was demanding work that kept her focused for hours at a time, listening to the sounds of the deep through sophisticated equipment. The morning started like any other. Sarah reported to the communications center at 0600 hours, relieving the night shift operator. The room was filled with glowing screens and the constant hum of electronic equipment. She put on her headphones and began her routine check of all underwater communication channels. "Good morning, Mitchell," said Commander James Roberts as he entered the comm center. Roberts was her direct superior and had always treated her with respect, unlike some of the older officers who still questioned women serving on combat vessels. "Morning, sir," Sarah replied, adjusting her headphones. "All channels are clear. The USS Seawolf is scheduled to surface for communication check at 800 hours. Roberts nodded and picked up a clipboard from the nearby desk. "Actually, there's been a change in plans. We've received new orders from Pacific Fleet Command. The Seawolf has been reassigned to a classified mission." Sarah looked up from her console. "What kind of mission, sir?" "That's classified above your clearance level," Roberts said, but his expression suggested there was more to the story. "However, you're being temporarily reassigned as well. You'll be briefed by Captain Harrison in his quarters at 0730. This was unusual. Sarah had never been called to the captain's quarters for a briefing, especially not for a temporary reassignment. Captain Harrison was the commanding officer of the entire carrier, and direct meetings with him were rare for someone of her rank. "Sir, may I ask why I'm being reassigned?" Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice professional despite her growing curiosity. Roberts hesitated before answering. "Your expertise in underwater communications has been specifically requested. That's all I can tell you right now." The next hour passed slowly as Sarah tried to focus on her routine duties while wondering what kind of mission would require her specific skills. She had trained extensively in submarine communications, but her role on the carrier was typically limited to monitoring and coordination. Being pulled for a special assignment suggested something more hands-on was required. At precisely 0730, Sarah knocked on Captain Harrison's door. She had only seen the captain from a distance during formal ceremonies and inspections. He was a tall man in his 50s with graying hair and intense blue eyes that seemed to see everything. "Come in, Lieutenant Mitchell," Captain Harrison said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. The captain's quarters were larger than Sarah expected, with nautical charts covering most of the wall space and a large window overlooking the flight deck. "Sir," Sarah said, sitting at attention. Captain Harrison studied her for a moment before speaking. "Lieutenant, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. You will not discuss this mission with anyone aboard this vessel, including Commander Roberts, until further notice. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Sarah replied, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. 3 days ago, one of our submarines, the USS Dolphin, went missing while conducting surveillance operations near the Mariana Trench. The last communication we received indicated they were tracking an unidentified underwater contact. Sarah's heart began to race. A missing submarine was every naval officer's worst nightmare. "Sir, have search and rescue operations begun?" "That's where this gets complicated," Captain Harrison continued. "The Dolphin was operating in waters that are technically international, but very close to territorial boundaries of a foreign nation that shall remain unnamed. Any large-scale search operation could create diplomatic tensions." The captain stood up and walked to the wall of charts, pointing to a specific area marked with red ink. The Dolphin's last known position was here, approximately 200 miles southwest of our current location. We believe they may be trapped or disabled on the ocean floor. Sarah studied the chart, recognizing the area as one of the deepest parts of the Pacific. Sir, rescue operations at that depth would require specialized deep-sea vessels. Exactly, which is why we're taking a different approach. Captain Harrison turned back to face her. The USS Seawolf has been equipped with an experimental deep-sea rescue pod. You're being assigned to the Seawolf as their communications specialist for this mission. Sir, I'm honored to be selected, but why me specifically? Sarah asked. Because you're the only officer in this fleet who has training in both submarine communications and the Dolphin's specific communication systems. You served aboard the Dolphin for 6 months last year during sea trials. Sarah remembered her time on the Dolphin well. It was a smaller, more advanced submarine designed for deep-sea operations. The crew was tight-knit, and she had formed friendships with several of the officers. The thought of them trapped underwater made her stomach tighten with worry. When do I transfer to the Seawolf? Sarah asked. Immediately. Your personal effects are already being transferred. The Seawolf will rendezvous with us in 30 minutes. Captain Harrison handed her a sealed envelope. These are your mission orders. Do not open them until you're aboard the Seawolf and have been briefed by Captain Rodriguez. Sarah took the envelope, feeling its weight in her hands. Sir, will I be returning to the carrier after the mission? Captain Harrison's expression grew serious. That depends on what you find down there, Lieutenant. This mission involves risks that go beyond normal submarine operations. The experimental rescue pod has never been tested at the depths you'll be operating in. As Sarah left the captain's quarters, her mind raced with questions. The urgency of the situation was clear, but there seemed to be layers of complexity that she wasn't being told about. Why was the Dolphin operating so close to foreign territorial waters? What was this unidentified contact they were tracking? She made her way to her quarters to collect any remaining personal items. Her roommate, Lieutenant Jennifer Torres, was getting ready for her shift. Sarah, I heard you're being transferred, Jennifer said, looking concerned. What's going on? Sarah wanted to tell her friend everything, but Captain Harrison's warning about discussing the mission was clear. It's just a temporary assignment. I can't really talk about it. Jennifer studied her friend's face. This isn't just some routine transfer, is it? You look worried. I'll be fine, Sarah said, though she wasn't entirely convinced herself. I should be back in a few days. She gathered her remaining belongings and made her way to the flight deck. In the distance, she could see a dark shape moving through the water toward the carrier. The USS Seawolf was approaching on the surface, its sleek black hull cutting through the waves. As Sarah stood on the deck waiting for the transfer boat, she thought about the crew of the Dolphin. She remembered Lieutenant Commander Paul Stevens, the submarine's executive officer, who had helped train her on the advanced communication systems. There was also Petty Officer Maria Gonzalez, a sonar specialist who had become a close friend during Sarah's time aboard. The thought of these brave men and women trapped in the depths of the ocean filled Sarah with determination. Whatever risks this mission involved, she was ready to face them. Her specialized training and experience could be the key to bringing the Dolphin's crew home safely. A small boat approached the carrier, and Sarah was instructed to board. As the boat moved away from the massive carrier toward the waiting submarine, she felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She was about to embark on a mission unlike anything she had experienced before. The Seawolf grew larger as they approached. Sarah could see crew members on the submarine's deck preparing to receive her. The submarine was newer and more advanced than the Dolphin, with a sleek design that spoke of cutting-edge technology. As the boat pulled alongside the Seawolf, a young sailor helped Sarah climb aboard. Welcome to the Seawolf, Lieutenant. Captain Rodriguez is waiting to see you in the control room. Sarah followed the sailor through a hatch and down into the submarine's interior. The corridors were narrow and filled with pipes and electrical conduits, but everything was meticulously clean and organized. The smell of recycled air and electronic equipment reminded her of her time on the Dolphin. The control room was the heart of the submarine, filled with computer screens, periscopes, and navigation equipment. Captain Rodriguez was a compact man in his 40s with dark hair and intense brown eyes. He looked up as Sarah entered. "Lieutenant Mitchell, welcome aboard. I hope you're ready for an interesting few days." "Yes, sir. I'm ready to help in any way I can." Captain Rodriguez gestured to a chart table in the center of the control room. "Let me brief you on what we know so far. The Dolphin was conducting surveillance on what appeared to be a foreign submarine when they suddenly went silent. Their last transmission was a single word: contact." Sarah studied the chart, noting the extreme depth of the search area. "Sir, what type of contact were they tracking?" "That's unclear. Sonar data suggests it was larger than any known submarine class, but the readings were inconsistent with normal submarine signatures." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Could it have been a surface vessel? Negative. The contact was definitely underwater, and moving in ways that don't match any known submarine capabilities. Captain Rodriguez opened a folder and showed Sarah several sonar printouts. The images showed a large, elongated shape that seemed to change size and configuration as it moved through the water. "Sir, these readings are unlike anything I've seen before," Sarah said, studying the strange sonar images. "Neither have we, which is why this mission is classified at the highest levels. If the Dolphin encountered something unknown, we need to find out what happened and ensure their survival." Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The possibility of encountering something unknown in the depths of the ocean was both thrilling and terrifying. Her training had prepared her for many scenarios, but nothing quite like this. "What's our timeline, sir?" Sarah asked. "We dive in 2 hours. The journey to the search area will take 8 hours at maximum speed. Once we reach the location, we'll begin our search using the deep-sea rescue pod." Captain Rodriguez led Sarah to a smaller compartment filled with communication equipment. "This will be your station. You'll be responsible for monitoring all communications and maintaining contact with both the Dolphin and the carrier if possible." The equipment was more advanced than anything Sarah had worked with before. Multiple screens showed various communication frequencies, and sophisticated audio equipment would allow her to detect even the faintest signals from the depths. "Sir, what exactly is this experimental rescue pod you mentioned?" Sarah asked. "It's a small, highly maneuverable submersible capable of operating at depths exceeding 20,000 feet. It's equipped with cutting-edge life support systems and can dock with disabled submarines to evacuate crew members." Captain Rodriguez showed her detailed plans of the rescue pod. It looked like a small spacecraft with multiple manipulator arms and a transparent viewing dome. The technology was impressive, but Sarah could see why it was still considered experimental. "Have there been any test runs at these depths?" Sarah asked. "Limited testing. The deepest operational dive was 15,000 feet. We'll be going significantly deeper." The implications were clear. This mission would push both equipment and crew to their absolute limits. Sarah understood now why Captain Harrison had seemed so serious during their briefing. As the Seawolf prepared to dive, Sarah took her position at the communications station. She put on her headphones and began monitoring all available frequencies. The submarine's engines hummed to life, and she felt the vessel begin its descent beneath the waves. Through her headphones, Sarah could hear the sounds of the ocean around them, the clicks and whistles of marine life, the distant rumble of surface vessels, and the subtle changes in water pressure as they descended deeper into the abyss. "Diving to 400 feet, announced the navigation officer. "All systems normal." Sarah watched the depth gauge on her console as numbers steadily increased. 500 feet, 600 feet, 700 feet. The submarine continued its controlled descent toward the search area where the dolphin had vanished. As they dove deeper, Sarah began scanning various communication frequencies, hoping to detect any signal from the missing submarine. The ocean at these depths was largely silent, but she listened carefully for any indication that the dolphin's crew was still alive. Hours passed as the Sea Wolf made its way through the dark waters of the Pacific. Sarah remained focused on her equipment, occasionally checking different frequencies and adjusting signal filters to improve reception. The rest of the crew went about their duties with professional efficiency, but she could sense the underlying tension that came with such an unusual mission. "Lieutenant Mitchell," Captain Rodriguez called from across the control room. "We're approaching the search area. Begin active scanning for any submarine signatures." Sarah activated the submarine's sophisticated sonar system and began sweeping the area where the dolphin had last been detected. The ocean floor at this location was rugged and complex, with deep trenches and underwater mountains that could hide a submarine or interfere with sonar readings. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple metallic signatures on the ocean floor," Sarah reported, "but they're too deep and scattered to be from a single vessel." Captain Rodriguez studied the sonar display over Sarah's shoulder. "Could be debris from the Dolphin or possibly wreckage from other vessels that have sunk in this area over the years." As they continued their search, Sarah noticed something unusual on the long-range sonar. A large signature was moving slowly along the ocean floor, too large and too regular in shape to be a natural formation. "Captain, I'm tracking a large mobile contact bearing 270 degrees, range approximately 5,000 yards, Sarah announced. The entire control room became silent as crew members focused on Sarah's announcement. Captain Rodriguez moved quickly to the sonar station and studied the readings himself. "That signature is massive," the captain said quietly. "Much larger than the Dolphin." Sarah watched as the contact slowly moved across her screen. Its size and movement patterns didn't match anything in her database of known submarines or surface vessels. "Sir, should we investigate the contact?" Sarah asked. Captain Rodriguez hesitated, clearly weighing their options. Their primary mission was to locate and rescue the Dolphin's crew, but this unknown contact could be related to their disappearance. "We maintain course toward the Dolphin's last known position," the captain decided. "But keep tracking that contact. If it moves toward us, I want to know immediately." As the Sea Wolf continued its search, Sarah split her attention between scanning for the missing submarine and monitoring the mysterious large contact. The situation was becoming more complex and dangerous with each passing hour. The depths of the Pacific Ocean held many secrets, and Sarah was beginning to realize that their mission might uncover more than they had bargained for. The USS Sea Wolf had been searching for 6 hours when Sarah detected the first faint signal. It was weak and intermittent, but definitely artificial. She adjusted her equipment and leaned closer to her console, straining to isolate the transmission. "Captain, I'm picking up a possible communication signal," Sarah announced, her heart racing with excitement. "It's very faint, but it could be from the Dolphin." Captain Rodriguez hurried to her station. "Can you clean it up enough to determine the source?" Sarah worked frantically with her signal processors, adjusting filters and amplification settings. Slowly, the static began to clear, and she could make out what sounded like Morse code. "Sir, it's definitely Morse code, but the signal is breaking up badly," Sarah said, writing down the letters as they came through. "SOS, TRAPPED, DEEP. That's got to be the Dolphin," Captain Rodriguez said grimly. "Can you get a bearing on the signal?" Sarah checked her direction-finding equipment. "Signal is bearing 180 degrees, range unknown due to the weak strength. It's coming from much deeper than I expected." The captain studied the nautical charts spread across the nearby table. "That bearing takes us directly toward the Mariana Trench. If the Dolphin is down there, they're in serious trouble." As the Seawolf changed course toward the signal source, Sarah continued monitoring the transmission. The Morse code messages were sporadic, suggesting that the Dolphin's communication equipment was severely damaged or operating on emergency power. "Sir, the messages are getting stronger as we get closer," Sarah reported. "I'm now reading, 'Hull breach sealed, limited power, need immediate assistance.'" Captain Rodriguez nodded grimly. "At least we know they're alive. Navigation, what's our depth to the signal source?" The navigation officer checked his instruments. "Sir, if the signal is coming from the ocean floor in that area, we're looking at depths of nearly 18,000 feet. A heavy silence fell over the control room. Everyone understood the implications. At those depths, a rescue would push their experimental equipment beyond its tested limits. "Sir, there's something else," Sarah said, studying her sonar display. "That large contact I detected earlier is moving in the same direction as the Dolphin's signal. It appears to be following the same course we're taking." Captain Rodriguez examined the sonar readings. The unknown contact was indeed paralleling their course, maintaining a distance of several thousand yards, but clearly aware of their presence. "Could it be a foreign submarine?" the executive officer asked. "If it is, it's unlike anything in our intelligence files," Captain Rodriguez replied. "The signature is too large and moves in ways that don't match known submarine capabilities." As they descended deeper into the ocean, Sarah noticed changes in the water around them. The normal sounds of marine life began to fade, replaced by strange echoes and acoustic anomalies that her equipment couldn't identify. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual sound patterns in the water," Sarah reported. "They're not natural, but they don't match any known mechanical sources either." Captain Rodriguez listened through Sarah's headphones and frowned. "I've never heard anything like that before." "Could it be geological activity?" "Negative, sir. The patterns are too regular and complex. It's almost like communication." This observation sent a chill through the control room. The possibility that they were detecting some form of unknown communication added another layer of mystery to an already complex situation. The Seawolf continued its descent, passing 10,000 feet, then 12,000 feet. At these depths, the water pressure was enormous, and even the slightest hull weakness could prove catastrophic. Sarah could feel the submarine's hull creaking slightly under the immense pressure. "Signal strength is increasing," Sarah announced. "I'm now receiving clear transmissions from the Dolphin." She quickly transcribed the latest message. "Emergency. Unknown contact still present. Do not approach without caution. Repeat. Exercise extreme caution." Captain Rodriguez studied the message with growing concern. "It sounds like whatever the Dolphin encountered is still in the area." "Sir, I'm also detecting what might be the Dolphin's sonar," Sarah said, adjusting her equipment. "They appear to be conducting active sweeps, possibly tracking the same contact we detected." The captain made a difficult decision. "We continue the rescue mission, but all crew will remain at general quarters. If we encounter whatever the Dolphin found, I want us ready for anything." As they approached the 15,000-foot mark, Sarah's equipment began picking up more detailed information about the Dolphin's condition. The submarine appeared to be resting on a ledge along the trench wall, with its hull intact but severely damaged. "Sir, based on the acoustic signatures, the Dolphin appears to have suffered damage to its propulsion system and is unable to surface under its own power," Sarah reported. Captain Rodriguez consulted with his engineering officer. "At this depth, we'll need to use the experimental rescue pod to evacuate the crew. The Seawolf can't get close enough for a standard docking procedure." Preparations began for deploying the deep-sea rescue pod. Sarah would remain aboard the Seawolf to maintain communications, but she would be the primary link between the rescue pod and both submarines. "Lieutenant Mitchell," Captain Rodriguez said, "once we deploy the pod, you'll be responsible for coordinating all communications between 3 vessels in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. Are you ready for that responsibility?" "Yes, sir. I won't let the Dolphin's crew down, Sarah replied with determination. As the rescue pod was prepared for launch, Sarah established communication protocols that would allow her to maintain contact with all parties, despite the extreme depth and difficult conditions. She also continued monitoring the mysterious large contact that remained in the area. "Sir, the unknown contact has moved closer," Sarah announced. "It's now within 2,000 yards of the Dolphin's position." Captain Rodriguez looked at the sonar display with growing unease. Whatever the Dolphin had encountered was apparently still interested in the situation. The rescue pod was ready for launch. It was a remarkable piece of engineering, designed to operate in the most extreme underwater environments. The pilot was Commander Lisa Chen, an experienced deep-sea specialist who had volunteered for the dangerous mission. "Rescue pod preparing for launch," Commander Chen reported through the communication system. "All systems check normal." Sarah monitored the pod systems through her console as it was released from the Seawolf. She watched its progress on sonar as it began its descent toward the Dolphin's position. "Rescue pod is away," Sarah announced. "Descent rate normal, all systems functioning within parameters." As the pod descended, Sarah maintained constant communication with both Commander Chen and the Dolphin. The submarine's crew was preparing for evacuation, but the process would be complicated by their depth and the damage to their vessel. "Dolphin, this is Seawolf Communications," Sarah transmitted. "Rescue pod is en route to your position. Estimate arrival in 30 minutes. The response from the Dolphin was immediate. "Roger. Seawolf. Crew is prepared for evacuation. But be advised, the unknown contact is still active in this area. We've been tracking its movements, and it appears to be investigating us." Sarah relayed this information to Captain Rodriguez, who ordered increased vigilance for all crew members. The situation was becoming more tense with each passing minute. 20 minutes into the pod's descent, Sarah detected a significant change in the acoustic environment around them. The strange communication-like sounds she had noticed earlier were becoming more frequent and complex. "Captain, the unknown acoustic activity is increasing dramatically," Sarah reported. "It's as if something is responding to our presence." Captain Rodriguez studied the sonar readings. "Could the rescue pod's descent be triggering some kind of response?" Before Sarah could answer, Commander Chen's voice crackled through the communication system. "Seawolf, this is rescue pod. I'm detecting a massive contact rising from the depths below me. Size and configuration unknown, but it's much larger than anything I've ever seen." Sarah's blood ran cold as she watched her sonar display. A huge signature was indeed rising from the deepest parts of the trench, moving directly toward the area where both the Dolphin and rescue pod were located. "All stations, this is the captain," Captain Rodriguez announced over the ship's intercom. "We have an unknown contact of significant size moving in our operational area. All crew maintain readiness for emergency procedures." Sarah worked frantically to track the rising contact while maintaining communications with both the rescue pod and the Dolphin. The situation was rapidly becoming more complex than anyone had anticipated. "Sir, the contact is enormous," Sarah reported, her voice tight with concern. "Sonar estimates put it at over 600 feet in length, but the readings are inconsistent. It's as if the object is changing shape as it moves." Commander Chen's voice came through the radio again, this time with clear tension. "Seawolf, I have visual contact with the rising object. This is unlike anything I've ever seen. It appears to be artificial, but not of any known design." Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she realized they were encountering something completely outside normal naval experience. The rescue mission for the Dolphin was now complicated by contact with an unknown underwater craft of enormous proportions. "Rescue pod, continue your approach to the Dolphin," Captain Rodriguez ordered. "But maintain maximum vigilance and be prepared for emergency ascent if necessary." The next few minutes passed in tense silence as Commander Chen continued her descent toward the trapped submarine. Sarah monitored multiple communication channels, tracking the positions of all vessels and the mysterious rising contact. "Dolphin, this is Rescue Pod," Commander Chen transmitted. "I have you on visual, preparing for docking approach." Sarah listened as the two submarine crews coordinated the delicate docking procedure that would allow the Dolphin's crew to transfer to the rescue pod. At these extreme depths, any mistake could be fatal. "Successful dock with Dolphin," Commander Chen reported. "Beginning crew transfer now." As the evacuation proceeded, Sarah noticed that the large unknown contact had stopped its ascent and was now maintaining position approximately 1,000 feet below the rescue operation. It seemed to be observing the activities without directly interfering. "Sir, the unknown contact has stopped moving upward," Sarah reported. "It's maintaining position below the rescue site." Captain Rodriguez studied the tactical situation. "Could it be waiting to see what we do next?" The possibility that they were being observed by some form of intelligent entity was both fascinating and terrifying. Sarah continued monitoring all communications while trying to gather as much information as possible about the mysterious contact. "First group of Dolphin crew aboard rescue pod," Commander Chen announced, "preparing to return for second group." The Dolphin's crew was too large to evacuate in a single trip, requiring the rescue pod to make multiple dangerous journeys between the surface and the damaged submarine. Each trip increased the risk of mechanical failure or encounter with the unknown contact. As Commander Chen began her second descent to the Dolphin, Sarah detected new acoustic activity from the mysterious object. The sounds were more complex and seemed to follow specific patterns. "Captain, the acoustic signals from the unknown contact are becoming more sophisticated," Sarah reported. "It's almost as if it's trying to communicate with us." Captain Rodriguez made a decision that would change everything. "Lieutenant Mitchell, see if you can establish some form of communication protocol with the unknown contact." Sarah's training had never covered first contact with unknown entities, but she understood the importance of the moment. She began transmitting simple mathematical sequences and universal scientific constants, hoping to establish that they were intelligent beings capable of rational communication. The response was immediate and startling. The unknown contact began transmitting back sequences that were clearly mathematical in nature, but far more complex than anything Sarah had sent. "Sir, it's responding to our transmissions," Sarah announced, hardly believing what she was seeing on her screens. "The mathematical sequences it's sending back are incredibly sophisticated." As this historic communication attempt continued, Commander Chen completed the second evacuation trip and was preparing for her final descent to collect the remaining Dolphin crew members. The rescue operation was proceeding successfully, but everyone aboard the Seawolf understood they were witnessing something that would change their understanding of what existed in Earth's deepest oceans. "Final crew transfer beginning," Commander Chen reported. "All Dolphin personnel should be evacuated within the hour." Sarah divided her attention between coordinating the rescue operation and attempting to establish more complex communication with the unknown entity. Each exchange of mathematical concepts seemed to increase the sophistication of the responses she received. "Sir, I believe we've established basic mathematical communication," Sarah told Captain Rodriguez. "The entity appears to understand advanced concepts and is responding with information that's beyond our current mathematical knowledge." As the final group of Dolphin crew members was loaded into the rescue pod, Sarah noticed the unknown contact beginning to move again. This time, however, it wasn't rising toward them, but moving horizontally along the ocean floor. "The unknown contact is departing the area," Sarah announced. "It's moving away at high speed toward the deepest part of the trench." Commander Chen's voice crackled through the communication system. "All Dolphin crew aboard rescue pod, beginning final ascent to Seawolf." As the rescue pod began its journey back to the surface, Sarah continued monitoring the departing unknown contact. The entity had communicated with them, observed their rescue operation, and then departed without any hostile actions. "Sir, I'm losing contact with the unknown entity," Sarah reported. "It's moving beyond our sonar range, but the last communication suggested it was satisfied with our interaction." Captain Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. "Lieutenant, prepare a complete report on all communications with the unknown contact. This information will need to be analyzed by specialists far above our clearance level." As the rescue pod docked with the Seawolf, Sarah began compiling her communication logs and sonar data. The successful rescue of the Dolphin's crew was a triumph, but the contact with an unknown intelligence would have implications far beyond their current mission. The rescued crew members were brought aboard the Seawolf, tired and shaken, but grateful to be alive. Lieutenant Commander Paul Stevens, the Dolphin's executive officer, was among the survivors and immediately reported to Captain Rodriguez. "Sir, what we encountered down there was beyond anything in our training," Stevens said. "The unknown contact approached the Dolphin without any hostile intent, but its technology was clearly far advanced beyond our capabilities." Sarah listened as Stevens described the Dolphin's encounter with the mysterious entity. According to his report, the unknown craft had somehow assisted in stabilizing the Dolphin's position on the ocean ledge, possibly preventing the submarine from sliding into the deeper parts of the trench. "Lieutenant Mitchell," Captain Rodriguez called out, "your communication work may have been the key to our successful interaction with the unknown entity." "Well done." As the Seawolf began its ascent toward the surface, Sarah reflected on the extraordinary events of the past day. They had successfully rescued a trapped submarine crew, but they had also made contact with something that challenged everything they thought they knew about Earth's oceans. 2 days after the rescue mission, the USS Seawolf surfaced in calm Pacific waters under a clear morning sky. Sarah stood on the submarine's deck, breathing fresh ocean air for the first time since beginning their descent into the depths. The events below the surface felt almost like a dream, but the detailed logs in her possession proved everything had been real. Captain Rodriguez emerged from the submarine's hatch and joined Sarah at the deck railing. "Lieutenant, I've received word from Pacific Fleet Command. They're sending a special investigation team to debrief all personnel involved in this mission." Sarah nodded, expecting this development. "Sir, what will happen to the information about the unknown contact?" "That's above both our pay grades," Rodriguez replied. "But I suspect this incident will be studied for years to come." Within hours, a helicopter approached from the direction of the USS Abraham Lincoln. Sarah could see several passengers aboard, including what appeared to be high-ranking naval officers and civilian personnel in suits. "Looks like the investigation team has arrived," Captain Rodriguez observed. The helicopter landed on the Seawolf's deck, and a group of serious-looking individuals disembarked. Leading the group was Admiral Patricia Thompson, a woman Sarah recognized from naval publications. The Admiral was known for her involvement in highly classified naval operations. "Captain Rodriguez, I'm Admiral Thompson," the woman said, extending her hand. "I'm here to personally oversee the debriefing of this mission." Following the Admiral were several officers Sarah didn't recognize, along with 2 civilians who had the unmistakable bearing of intelligence personnel. The group was escorted below deck to the submarine's conference room. "Lieutenant Mitchell," Admiral Thompson said, addressing Sarah directly, "I understand you were responsible for establishing communication with the unknown contact." "Yes, ma'am. I documented all exchanges in my mission logs," Sarah replied, offering the Admiral a thick folder containing her reports. Admiral Thompson reviewed the documents quickly, her expression becoming more serious with each page. "This is remarkable work, Lieutenant. The mathematical sequences you recorded will require analysis by our top cryptographers and mathematicians." The debriefing process took several hours. Each crew member involved in the mission was interviewed separately, and their accounts were carefully recorded. Sarah's interview was the longest, given her central role in both the rescue operation and the contact with the unknown entity. Lieutenant, in your opinion, was the unknown contact's behavior hostile or peaceful? Admiral Thompson asked. Sarah considered her answer carefully. Ma'am, based on its actions during the rescue operation, I believe the contact was curious rather than hostile. It could have easily interfered with our rescue efforts, but instead seemed to observe and even assist in some way. What makes you say it assisted? One of the civilian investigators asked. According to the Dolphin's crew, their submarine was stabilized in a position that prevented it from sliding deeper into the trench. The natural current patterns at that depth should have caused them to sink further, but something kept them in place until we arrived. Admiral Thompson exchanged glances with the other investigators. Lieutenant, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. Similar contacts have been reported by submarine crews in various locations around the Pacific over the past 2 years. Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and concern. Ma'am, are you saying this isn't an isolated incident? That's correct. You've provided us with the first successful communication record with these entities. Your work may be crucial to understanding what we're dealing with. The investigation team spent another day aboard the Seawolf, interviewing crew members and examining all equipment used during the mission. Sarah's communication logs were copied multiple times and classified immediately. On the third morning, Admiral Thompson approached Sarah with an unexpected proposition. Lieutenant Mitchell, I'm forming a special research team to investigate these underwater contacts. I'd like you to consider joining this team. Sarah was surprised by the offer. Ma'am, what would my role be in such a team? You would be our lead underwater communications specialist. Your success in establishing contact makes you invaluable to this research effort. The Admiral explained that the team would be based at a classified facility in the Pacific, where they would analyze data from multiple contact incidents and develop protocols for future encounters. Ma'am, I'm honored by the offer, Sarah said. But what about my current assignment aboard the carrier? You would be reassigned permanently to the research team. This work is considered a top priority for national security. Sarah requested time to consider the offer, knowing it would dramatically change her naval career. The research position would involve cutting-edge work, but it would also mean leaving traditional naval operations behind. That evening, as the Seawolf prepared to rendezvous with the USS Abraham Lincoln, Sarah received an encrypted message through the submarine's communication system. The message was addressed to her personally and came from an unknown source. Working late in the communication room, Sarah decoded the message using standard naval encryption protocols. What she found made her heart race with excitement and concern. The message contained mathematical equations that were identical to some of the sequences she had received from the unknown contact during the rescue mission. But this message was coming through normal communication channels, not from the depths of the ocean. Sarah immediately reported the message to Captain Rodriguez and Admiral Thompson. The implications were staggering. Somehow, the unknown entity had access to human communication systems. This changes everything, Admiral Thompson said after reviewing the decoded message. If these entities can access our communication networks, they have capabilities far beyond what we initially assessed. The message itself was relatively simple, a series of mathematical constants followed by coordinates that corresponded to a location in the Pacific Ocean. The coordinates were in an area known for its extreme depth and unusual geological features. It appears to be some form of invitation, one of the intelligence specialists observed. The entity is providing us with a specific location for future contact. Admiral Thompson made an immediate decision. Lieutenant Mitchell, I need your answer about joining the research team now. This message suggests the entities want to establish ongoing communication, and you're the only person who has successfully communicated with them. Sarah realized she was at a crossroads in her life. The opportunity to participate in what might be the most significant discovery in human history was compelling, but it would also involve enormous risks and responsibilities. "Admiral, I accept the assignment to the research team," Sarah said, knowing her life was about to change dramatically. Within hours, arrangements were made for Sarah's transfer to the classified research facility. She would not be returning to the USS Abraham Lincoln as originally planned. Instead, she would be flown directly to a remote location where the most advanced underwater research in the world was being conducted. As Sarah prepared to leave the Seawolf, she reflected on how quickly her life had changed. A week earlier, she had been a communications specialist on a routine carrier assignment. Now she was joining a team investigating potentially the most important discovery in human history. The rescued crew of the USS Dolphin was also being transferred for extensive debriefing and medical evaluation. Lieutenant Commander Stevens approached Sarah before her departure. "Lieutenant, I wanted to thank you personally for your role in our rescue," Stevens said. "But I also wanted to warn you about something we observed during our encounter with the unknown contact." Stevens glanced around to ensure they weren't being overheard, then continued in a lower voice. "The entity didn't just observe us, it seemed to be learning from us. Every system it scanned, every communication we made, it appeared to be analyzing and understanding our technology." This information added another layer of complexity to the situation. If the entities were actively learning about human technology and capabilities, future encounters might be very different from the peaceful observation they had experienced. "Sir, did you report this to the investigation team?" Sarah asked. "Yes, but I wanted to make sure you were aware. As the primary communicator with these entities, you may be in a unique position to understand their intentions." Sarah thanked Stevens for his concern and promised to include his observations in her ongoing analysis. The helicopter that would transport her to the research facility was approaching, and her new assignment was about to begin. Admiral Thompson accompanied Sarah on the helicopter flight, using the time to brief her on the scope of the research project she was joining. The facility they were flying toward was a marvel of engineering, built specifically to study deep ocean phenomena and potential contact with unknown intelligences. "Lieutenant, what you're about to see has been under development for 3 years," Admiral Thompson explained over the helicopter's noise. "We've been preparing for this possibility longer than you might think." As they flew over the Pacific, Sarah could see a large structure in the distance that appeared to be partially submerged. As they got closer, she realized it was a massive research platform built directly over one of the ocean's deepest trenches. "Welcome to Deep Blue Station," Admiral Thompson said as they approached the landing pad. "This facility can support research operations down to depths of 25,000 feet. The research station was larger than Sarah had imagined, with multiple levels extending both above and below the ocean surface. Sophisticated equipment was visible throughout the facility, including submersibles, deep-sea vehicles, and communication arrays that dwarfed anything she had worked with before. Dr. Michael Chen, the facility's director, met them at the landing pad. "Admiral, Lieutenant Mitchell, welcome to Deep Blue. I'm excited to have you join our team." Dr. Chen led them through the facility, explaining the various research programs underway. Most impressive was the communications laboratory, where teams of scientists were working to decode and understand the mathematical sequences that had been recorded from various underwater contacts. "Lieutenant Mitchell," Dr. Chen said, "your successful communication with the entity during the rescue operation has provided us with our most detailed interaction data to date." Sarah was shown to her new quarters and laboratory space, where she would be working with a team of linguists, mathematicians, and communication specialists. Her primary responsibility would be developing protocols for future contact with the unknown entities. On her first night at Deep Blue Station, Sarah stood on an observation deck looking out over the vast Pacific Ocean. The water below held secrets that humanity was only beginning to understand, and she was now at the center of efforts to unlock those mysteries. The encrypted message she had received on the Seawolf continued to puzzle her. The coordinates provided by the entity pointed to a location that was deeper than any previous contact site. If the entities were inviting further communication, they were choosing to meet at the most extreme depths of Earth's oceans. Dr. Chen joined Sarah on the observation deck, carrying a cup of coffee and looking thoughtful. "It's overwhelming at first," he said, "realizing that we're not alone on this planet." "Dr. Chen, how many contact incidents have there been?" Sarah asked. "Officially, 7 confirmed contacts over the past 2 years. Unofficially, we suspect there have been many more that went unreported or were misidentified." The doctor explained that the entities seem to prefer contact with submarines operating at extreme depths, suggesting they originated from the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. "Lieutenant, your communication success has given us hope that we can establish meaningful dialogue with these entities," Dr. Chen continued. "But we're also preparing for the possibility that they may not have peaceful intentions." Sarah understood the delicate balance the research team was trying to maintain. They needed to pursue communication and understanding while also preparing for potential threats to national and global security. Over the following weeks, Sarah worked intensively to analyze her communication logs from the rescue mission and develop improved protocols for future contact. The mathematical sequences exchanged with the entity were incredibly sophisticated, suggesting a level of intelligence far beyond human capabilities. Working with the facility's advanced computers, Sarah began to decode more complex patterns in the entity's communications. What she discovered was both fascinating and disturbing. The mathematical sequences contained information about Earth's geological structure, ocean currents, and even some aspects of human civilization. "Dr. Chen, I think they've been studying us for much longer than we initially believed," Sarah reported during a team meeting. "The information embedded in their communications suggests detailed knowledge of our planet and our activities. This revelation led to intensified security measures at Deep Blue Station and increased urgency in the research efforts. If the entities had been observing human activities for an extended period, the implications for national security were enormous." 3 months into her assignment at Deep Blue Station, Sarah received another encrypted message through the facility's communication systems. This message was more complex than the first, containing detailed star charts and what appeared to be historical information about Earth's oceans. "They're trying to tell us something important," Sarah told the research team. "These star charts seem to show the configuration of our solar system at various points in Earth's geological history." The message also contained new coordinates, this time pointing to a location in the Mariana Trench that was even deeper than the site of the dolphin rescue. The entities were clearly inviting another contact, but at conditions that would push human technology to its absolute limits. Admiral Thompson returned to Deep Blue Station to review Sarah's latest findings and make decisions about future contact attempts. The stakes had grown considerably since the rescue mission, and any new contact would require approval at the highest levels of government. "Lieutenant Mitchell, your work has been exemplary," Admiral Thompson said during their meeting, "but I need to ask if you're prepared for what might be our most significant contact attempt yet." Sarah looked out over the vast Pacific Ocean, knowing that somewhere in its depths, intelligences far older and more advanced than humanity were waiting. Her role as humanity's first successful communicator with these entities carried enormous responsibility, but also the potential for discoveries that could change the course of human history. "Admiral, I'm ready for whatever comes next," Sarah replied. Understanding that her quiet assignment to monitor submarine communications had evolved into something that might determine humanity's place in a universe far more complex than anyone had imagined. The story of Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell was far from over. In the depths of Earth's oceans, ancient intelligences waited with knowledge that could transform human understanding of their planet and their place in the cosmos. Sarah stood ready to serve as the bridge between two vastly different forms of consciousness, knowing that the future of both species might depend on the success of their communication efforts.